Yeah, Neville was fantastic. I think at the time, yeah, probably the best. I would say the best in the world. I think people always talk about fantastic goalkeepers. I think every successful side has to have a number one, and I think Neville at that time was outstanding.
Well, the funny thing about it with Nev is that you're saying that, and that if you say that you pick me one save that Neville's made, that's made him that number one, you would pick a different save than I would. And if there was one of the other lads there, they would pick a different save as well. And I think that's the true class of any player. It doesn't matter what position. You'd always pick out an incident. But with Nev, you can pick maybe a dozen great saves, and they'll all be different. Everybody will have a favourite.
But you were fortunate enough that not just here, but also for the country as well, Wales.
Yeah.
So obviously you know more about him. But certainly the Evertonians here would say that he's the best goalkeeper they've seen. People relate to Gordon West, but certainly in our time, I think I haven't seen anybody better.
Definitely so. There's nobody been better. I mean, we've had the privilege to train with him day in, day out, and we can say he's made better saves in training than he's made in matches. But I mean, he was a different breed, wasn't he? I mean, goalkeepers are a bit mad anyway, but he was a bit eccentric to say the least. But I mean, great goalkeeper in every aspect. You couldn't really think there was a fault with him, could you?
No, he couldn't. He started his career early and things weren't right for him. Everybody talks about the games, he conceded goals, but when we were successful in the European campaign as well, he was unbeatable at times, especially when if they got behind the back four. You look at it and say, well, no worry, because Neville would save it. It was outstanding in a one-on-one situation.
It was nice to know as a centre-half that if they got past you, they still had Nev to beat. And that was a great belief about him. And you had Gary, didn't you? He's one of them players that he just effortless. Everything was effortless, wasn't it? Whatever session we did, he was always. If it was a running session, he'd be up there at the front, wasn't he? And we were like,
at the back.
He should. Yeah, he was great to. You could only see him from the back, and it was. I don't know. He was just had this easy thing about him when he was at full stretch, even, wasn't it?
He had a spring in his step, and he was great. People talking in the past about overlapping fullbacks and things like that. Gary could get forward, came up with a few goals in his time as well. People look at him, he was an athlete. Up and down, fitness-wise, not a problem. As you said, at the running, he was always up there first, up and down, overlapping. He was a dream, for a manager as a fullback.
The thing is with Gary, I thought Gary got better as he just sort of reached maybe around about 23, 24, just before he left. His touch got better, his passing got better. Well, like you say, he was first forward and first back. For a full-back, that's all you need. And I think what people don't realise is Gary was about 6 foot, 6'1", and he was tremendous as a defender to have. And I think people don't realise that, the height-wise, because if you think about it, we weren't particularly overblessed with height in the side, but we had decent stopgaps, if you know, when we had to defend corners and things like that.
He's another reason I think he came as a kid. He worked under the tutelage of Colin. And I'm not too sure whether he came to the club, whether he was a right back or whether they were.
He's a centre forward.
Yeah.
He comes as a centre. Kev Richardson and Gary Stevens played for the youth teams as centre forwards. And I think Colin obviously was instrumental in maybe finding another position for them. Me personally, I come as a left winger.
No, I don't believe that now.
Well, I did. I played games for my schools and that as left winger, and it was only international under 15s that I played at centre half. But obviously, Colin's seen that as well.
It was a good decision for Gary at right back. I don't think he'd have got outside up front, would
he? No, I don't think so.
Oh. On the other side, with Pat Vanden Houwe, left back again. The name of that, how he qualified for the Welsh national side, I don't know, but he did. Another one you played with at international level. I think before he came to the club, had a reputation. He was at Birmingham City, but I think when he moved here, I think we saw the best of him. I think outstanding as a defender, could play centre back, and I think this was his best time in his career. Moved on to Tottenham afterwards. I think his best footballing time was certainly here.
Well, what a lot of people don't realise about Pat is that when he did get the ball, he never gave it away. He never played really telling balls, 40, 50 yard balls. If a ball come to you, it was very rarely up here. It was always to your feet or down a little bit of a ball down the channel. but he played the game simply. He knew what his assets were, and that was he was a good defender. He was very good in the air for his size.
No, another fit lad. Another fit lad.
Well, he was fit without really having to train.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember he'd been out for a while, and then he'd come back and he did a bit of training on his own. He said, "I'm going out and going to do a few laps." He ended up doing about 15 laps, and there wasn't even any sweat on him. I mean, lapping Belfield's not the easiest thing, as we know.
Yeah.
4 maximum for me, but did about 12 to 15, which is come in and it's still breathtaking. And it's just
certainly lived up to his nickname. Psycho, the punters dubbed him Psycho here. Certainly lived up to his nickname.
Oh yeah, he loved it as well. I think deep down, didn't he?
Played to the image,
played to the image a little bit, and you know that's what. If we got the best out of him, we got the best out of him. You know, you didn't mind that, did you?
Yeah, Rats obviously no qualms there. The most successful captain in Everton's history, defender. You know, fantastic, very, very quick. He started his career at left back, got moved into the centre. Very, very quick, very, very strong, decent in the air, and whoever he played alongside formed a good partnership. I just think played against him at international level, he could kick a bit, which I'm known to have been in the end of, but excellent player, very, very quick, as I said. Kevin, I think he scored 1 or 2 goals. It was certainly not, it wasn't his 40. Didn't really go up for free kicks or whatever. But when he did score, they were telling goals. You know, most notably against Liverpool. He'll tell you that it was an outstanding strike. But for those who saw it, will realise it was a fantastic strike. But fantastic captain, fantastic player, and worthy of all the plaudits that came his way.
Derek was really had a great record one year for scoring somewhere in the region of 12 goals in the season. He was a good player to play alongside, because obviously I wasn't blessed with the greatest of height. So with Derek, he used to be able to get up there, head the ball away, put his foot through it. We had a good partnership. But he took some winding up, I must admit. He took some winding up to get going. You know, he'd always like to go down and have a little bit of an injury. The physio, if he worked on time on Derek, just running onto the pitch, he would have been a millionaire. But you know, we got the best out of Derek. He was quicker than what people thought. He was awkward. He had this awkward stance about him that I always remember his first game we played down at Birmingham, and he played against Mickey Hartford up front. And it was one of these games where people expected us to go down. We played Wolves on the Saturday, I think, something like that. Andy Gray was playing for Wolves, and I think we lost. And he'd made a mistake against Wolves, and then we played on the Monday against Birmingham, something like that. And he played, and we were thinking, it's not going to be the best. We didn't fancy it. He was outstanding. He was outstanding, and I think the best game that I've ever seen him, which people won't realise, was maybe the Bayern Munich game here. He was outstanding in the game.
Well, when you think he came from Tranmere, it was a small
30,000.
Yeah, a small fee. At that time, you'd have thought, well, bought him just to play in the reserves and see what happens if he progresses. He certainly came to the fore, and the fact that you look at his goal scoring record was absolutely phenomenal.
Well, he had this understanding with Kev, didn't he, Kev Sheets, that Kev was always going to put the ball in the same area, and I think Kevin had this understanding with him. As soon as he started his run, he put the ball in the area, and Derek just attacked it. And Derek, I think Howard worked on it with him for a while, didn't he? Of getting across defenders. What don't defenders like? They don't like you getting across them. And he had this knack of timing his run. When the ball was getting in there, he was getting across the defender. And I think it was just the understanding. You got a quality ball coming in, and the timing of the run.
Really, Peter Reid, what a character! You know, fantastic to see him doing well in management. But as a player, he had to overcome an awful lot of injuries. You know, when he was at Bolton, and you know, he moved to Arsenal, fell through, and whatever. He came here. People thought when he came here it was the end of his career, but he had a new lease of life. And people talk about the turnaround and our success. I think Reedy was at the centre of that. You know, I think it was outstanding. Pulled everybody together. Wasn't a midfield player in the Brian Robson mould, if you like, that the fact that he got forward and scored a lot of goals, but he was a holding midfield player who loved the tackle, and he fitted in really, really well with the midfield style. And you know, you could see then that he was a leader, you know, on the field, and as I said, he's gone on to greater things in management, but he was certainly an instrumental player.
Yeah, I think what the likes of Peter and Andy brought into us younger lads, I think they're about 4 or 5 years older than us, and what they installed in us was a not lose situation, and it didn't matter who you were, then you get that rollicking. But likewise, if they weren't doing their job and you had a go at them, they'd hold their hands up and they'd get on with it, and there was no backbiting or anything like that, or who do you think you're having a go at half times. It was always, you're right, I'll get my house in order, and that was great. And like you say with Peter, he was one of these tenacious characters in midfield that wherever the ball was, he seemed to be around him, and he had a great understanding with Brace where they were, I think, no more than 10 yards away from each other. So if one lost the tackle, the next one was in, and they complemented each other. They weren't, like you say, both of them weren't really lads who liked to get forward into the box, get headers in and get strikes in at goal. They scored the goals here and there. But when you've got people like Gary and then Pat Vanden out either side of them where they could join in, they just filled in the holes when they went, didn't they?
Yeah, the make-up of the side was ideal with them, you know, and I think...
And what Peter as well is, he was good holding the ball and slowing the game down. If you give it him, strong, put his foot on it, and he brought other players in. And it wasn't...
Neat and tidy, little short passes, kept things going, kept things moving. He wasn't going to hit 50 yards, 60 yard crossfield passes. He just got the end, gave it, got it and gave it to somebody else, and he was an outstanding talent.
He's one of them that brought the qualities of you can't lose.
Yeah, and again, he has a successful time here, and he gets an England call-up. And he went to the World Cup and did very, very well for England.
Well, it wasn't until he got playing instead of Ray Wilkins, when Ray Wilkins got sent off against Poland, I think, and he come on, that England started playing well. So that is I think is a good sign of how good of a player he was, that, even in that heat, and I think everybody will remember him for trying to chase Maradona.
Yeah.
But
Pace was never his
I don't know why he
forte,
even tried. Tricky Trev, I mean, he got me out of jail a few times, I must admit, with my clearances. It was, as soon as I realised it was going that way, I just shouted Trev, and he was onto it. Very good in the air for his size, wasn't he? He was one of them lads that used to hang in the air and come across full-backs, and anytime we wanted a little bit of pressure taken off, give it to Trev, and he'd just do his little tricks, get us out of trouble, wouldn't he?
Very, very skillful, very, very skillful. Again, came a lot of people chasing him, signed for Everton.
But he was one of the most expensive signings Howard made at 19 or something.
He was, and things didn't go well for him, did he? Things didn't go well to start with. He got a little bit of criticism from supporters, but once you get into the side and the team gelled...
Well, he didn't play in the League Cup final, did he?
No.
Alan Irvine played, but he played in the final that year.
That's right.
In a matter of months.
And he gave the boy at Watford a torrid time, but as a forward, you say he helped you from defensively knocking balls here, but as a forward, he was fantastic. He did get to the line, he could put balls across. We were very fortunate on that side that we had Trevor on that side and Sheeds on the other side, and as a forward, that's what you can only dream of.
Well, you knew the cross was coming in, didn't you?
Fantastic.
You knew they didn't have to beat players to get the cross in.
Well, exactly. You get wingers who want to beat them and then come back on the left foot, but what you got with Trevor, he needed half a yard, got the ball in, and as I said, he was again very, very instrumental, and not only for myself but for Andy and people who had the privilege, playing alongside him for providing crosses for goals.
Sharpie was, for me, certainly the best centre forward of his type that I've had the privilege to play with, where you'd know that if the ball was going up, that if it didn't stick, then you knew that he would do his utmost to make sure the centre forward didn't get a clean header, or a clean volley away or whatever. He used to work both sides. He could work the channel. He'd put the ball down the channel. He'd get there. He'd come back out. He wouldn't try anything too fancy. He had a little trick where he always used to come in onto his right foot and try and nutmeg the centre half. And more often than not, that used to come off, and it was great. But he was brought up to come out the other side and keep the ball and then get back in the box. And I think when Andy come, I think that was the icing on the cake for him. He installed that little bit of aggression into him, and I think while Andy was here, he had the best seasons of his life of playing. And you know, you didn't want anybody else in the box to have the ball other than Graeme if it was coming in for a cross. It was a good blending of him and Andy, him and Inchy. Gary Lineker played for a year and had a great season, was scoring 40 goals. And you know what they don't realise is that when players score them goals, you need an assistant, and that assistant was more often than not the big man here. And, you know, the other thing was that I found, and when I've gone into coaching and gone into his management, is how important people like Graeme is when you have to defend the corners and free kicks. And very rarely was it Graeme's fault if anybody scored off a corner. He had a little patch just in front of me, I think, at the near post, and saved me from doing a lot of heading, I must admit.
Andy came here very shy and retiring, as you'd expect.
He couldn't whisper over 3 fields, could he? That's what we used to say.
Oh, he was. He came in again, the dressing room. Again, people thought very similar to Reedy. They thought that it was the end of his career. He was just winding down. He was a £1 million signing for Wolves. He came here. People looked at it as a panic buy, if you like, from Everton. Yeah, wasn't it? A panic buy. He'd been plagued with injuries, but he came over here and he was absolutely outstanding. You know, for the short time he was here. Talk about brave centre forward. People say that his injuries he's had was down to his own bravery. But I always remember one game, Notts County, where he scores a fine header, but 2 inches off the floor. You know, it was incredible. You know,
would have been easier to volley, wouldn't it?
Oh, it would have been. Everybody else
might have missed though then.
But again, whatever he does in life, whether it's what he's doing now or whether it's on the golf course, very, very, very competitive.
Yeah.
You know,
but I think with Andy is that when he come in, I don't know about you, but he's come in. He's so lively. He's
bubbly. Yeah.
You know, some people might say OTT. I don't know, but for the young players that are in the squad, like I said, we were only youngsters then, 20, 22, 21, learning our trades, sort of playing and everything. And I remember we've come in and he's give us this self-belief.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what you thought. I thought, well, there's a player that's really finishing it. He was only 28, 29. He's on his way out. He's not as good as what he used to be, but he's a good player.
Oh.
He must have been some player when he won them awards of Young Player of the Year and Player of the Year at 21 or something.
Yeah. He wouldn't have it from me when he came down here at first and he walked in the dressing room, and he was genuinely my hero.
Yeah.
My side, there's a Scots, the lad up there, he had a favourite English side, it was Aston Villa. And the time it was Andy, okay, a Glasgow boy, whatever, a Scotsman coming down. He was absolutely awesome. And you could see some of the clips. So actually to get the chance of playing with him was fantastic. But again, he had a big part to play in their success. And
I think it was down to that self-belief that he used to, like you say, the confidence that he had. And you think that, well, I mean, certainly me, I thought, well, look at the confidence that he's got. If you can install that into your game, and have that winning attitude, which he was a winner, wasn't he? He'd do anything to win. He'd head. I mean, I always remember down at Southampton with Kevin Bond.
Yeah.
And Kevin Bond's got a free header off a corner, and he headbutts him and plays a cannon.
Yeah.
And he headbutts him, and Kevin Bond heads the ball over the bar.
Yeah.
I said, "What you've done that for?" And he said, "It's the only way I could get a header on target." And it was. I'm thinking.
The thing was, at the time, we talk about partners, and I was very fortunate to play with Links and Shea and people throughout my career here. But I think when opposition defences looked at the team sheet and saw Gray and Sharp, they knew that they were in, for a hard game. You played against Mick Harford. And
Graeme, the greatest thing for a centre half is that that when people are on the ball, centre halves or fullbacks, is that when they're going to cock the leg back, they haven't got time and space to pick a player out. And what you and Andy did was you never give them time. They never got free headers. They never got free sort of passes off. You were always putting them under pressure, and that makes a great difference to the way that we played, where we held the line, tried to play the offside game, and you can squeeze up because they're never going to pick players out. Brace, nothing fancy about him, was there?
No.
Only off the field.
Yeah.
Where he'd like to be the snappy dress and everything.
Sit Paul, yeah.
But one of them players that you don't realise how good he is until you've played with him. Me personally, when I was here from a young age, like you, Graeme, you come at 19, didn't you? We had the likes of Stevie Mack here.
Yeah.
Stevie Mack went, And then Kevin Richard come on board.
Yeah.
I always remember Kevin Richardson playing his part in there, and then they brought Paul Brace with him from Sunderland.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, why have they brought Brace in when we've got somebody like Kev Richardson? Because I thought Kev was a decent player in there. I mean, his record stands for itself as well. But when Brace come in and started doing the business and doing this and doing that, and
again they complimented. Yeah, they did.
And he was unfortunate with his injury.
He was very unfortunate.
They never found that bone in his ankle for maybe a year. And but to keep
he was a different one. When we talked about Reedy, and Reedy could play the short passes. Brace could do that as well, but he had more. And he would play crossfield passes. You know,
he was one of the fittest blokes
that
I've seen as well. I mean, very, very fit man. Was very, very proud of his body when he, you know, we had an extra slice of pizza or whatever. He'd be running around it just to try and get that off, wouldn't he?
Well, ourselves.
Well, that was which extra piece was that? But he was like you say, he was one of them players, and another winner. Very quiet lad.
But I think
not on the pitch though.
No.
On the pitch, he was one of them, and that was a great attribute I thought of the side. There was plenty of people in that side that would have something to say about the game, and he certainly had an opinion. And used to point the finger if you weren't doing it.
As you said, a fit lad, if you get forward, score a couple of goals, you get forward, get back. But I think as a defender, the good thing about it is when the opposition had the ball, Brace would give you that screen, with Reedy in front, see this is
he used to just protect so they couldn't get balls into feet. And if you told them to come left a little bit or right a little bit, they'd do it, they'd listen to you. And they had the confidence in you. They knew that if they got tight and the ball was played over the top, that me and Derek, or Pat or Gary would get there. And again, once again, you've got the big fella at the back and they'd keep it out the net for you.
Sheeds, your big mate, Rat. Sheeds, a quiet man. Even on the field, quiet in terms of wasn't the most vociferous person. But I tell you what a fantastic quality he had. That left foot could open a can of peas or whatever with that. Fantastic. We talk about service for strikers coming in. Kevin was not one of those that would get to the byline and get balls in. He just put the ball on his left foot, and we knew automatically, had a great understanding, he would just peel off, you know, to the back post, and she would send that cross in. Fantastic left foot.
What were the stats over, Greg? You know, about Kevin, you know, how many, you know, the goals that you scored, what was the percentage that he made for you? Or not just you, but any other side. I bet it was near on 90%.
Oh, without a shadow of a doubt, with him and Trevor, we were spoiled as strikers, you know, those two in the wing. But we talk about people now, and you've got to be an athlete and you've got to win tackles. She'd certainly wouldn't win a tackle, we'd be first to admit that, but in the team we had, in the system we had, Sheed, whether it be whoever played behind him, Pat Vandenhow, John Bailey earlier on, whoever, you know, they knew what Sheeds could do. Give the ball to Sheeds.
He was available all the time. When you got the ball, he made himself available. And the other thing about Kevin was that I felt, as we were knitting together as a side, that we had, I would say, we always said that we had 10 winners inside, and that Kevin was the one who made everything tick. Yeah. But I certainly believe that the longer we played together, that Kevin started getting there. He worked his socks off, he worked up and down, but he had this little, because he was never rushed in anything, he had this lazy sort of thing about him, and people thought that he wasn't working his socks off. And I remember at the end of it, you know, he was starting to make tackles, because there was 10 other lads doing exactly the same. But for me, picking people out, and I've never seen a left foot in my life like it, where, and there's no effort in it.
No.
I remember a goal he scored here against Ipswich.
In the cup.
In the cup. And he got the ball down, and he put the ball, I think it was Cooper the first and he put it into the right hand corner or something. And the referee blew and says, "No, you've taken it too quick." He put the ball down, he blew the whistle, he put it in the other corner. I've never laughed so much in a match, and it's an FA Cup match, and he's done that. And I think
he was unfortunate against Sheeds in his career and injuries. You know, he had a few injuries. But the funny thing I always reminded QPR away in the plastic, when unfortunately there was an incident where I think 20 players get involved in the centre circle in the scrap. There's two people never get involved. Neville was sitting lying against the post, and the camera panned round. I always remember it was on the news and everything. The camera's panned round, and there was Sheeds in the far touchline, across shaking his head as if to say, "What they all know." Yeah, he was a fantastic player, fantastic, as I said, pleasure to play with all the players we mentioned. You know,
He got upset if you lost, didn't he?
Yeah,
he
of
was,
course he
he
did.
was very moody.
Oh,
You know, you could really they say the wrong thing to Kevin, and he would get upset. I mean, I remember a time that he got injured, didn't he, against Liverpool
yeah,
in the
in the
World
cup.
Cup. And I think he did something to his ankle.
That's
and the next time we played, I think we played Man United in the Charity Shield.
Mhm.
We're getting off the bus, and I picked up the pillar, threw the pillar to him, and said, "There, Kev, there's the pillar for today." And he said, "What's that for?" And I said, "Well, you know, you're going to be playing on the wing today, aren't you?" I said, "Well, you can get your head down for half an hour." Well, we're playing the match. Well, I've never seen anybody play as well as that at Wembley. He was tackling back, and because we always used to wind him up, well, he's never played at Wembley for about a year. He said, "I did. I played against." No,
No,
you never played. You know, and it really bugged him. And